Hi everyone, number one Marmaduke fan here, and there is a power out here at Marmaduke Fan HQ. So if you're hearing this, that means I must have found power somewhere and got to upload this dank vid. I just recorded and uploaded before the power went out, a open source story pitch where I tell you a rough idea I have for a story that I don't think I'm ever going to do anything with. And then I just say, if you guys like this, if you want to do anything with it, do a little short story, do a little comic, it's yours. I will not sue you. It's in the public domain. And as I listened to it, I kind of realized, I seem to have a lot of religious subtext to a lot of my stories. That's something I'm noticing. Sometimes it's conscious, but even in some of the stories where I was unconscious of it, it seems to creep its way in. And then that got me thinking about other little story ideas I've had. And the problem is some of these are just what ifs, but they're what ifs that might be interesting because I think they're kind of spins on traditional genres like dystopias or time travel stories. So this one was prompted by a joke my dad used to tell me, and I think I inherited a lot of my triggering sense of humor from him. And I don't think I can tell the joke because this was a joke he wrote, and so that might put out some sensitive information. But pretty much it was a joke about aliens who were religious, and I think that got stuck in the back of my mind for a while. Religious aliens. And another prompt for this idea was a book called A Skeleton in God's Closet. I don't remember the author's name, but it's a really neat kind of archaeological mystery book about these archaeologists thinking they've discovered the tomb of Joseph of Arimathea, the man who paid for Jesus' tomb. And then when they open up the tomb, there are documents in there claiming that it is the tomb of Jesus Christ, and the buried figure has crucifixion marks. And of course, this causes a worldwide sensation. And it's a religious book that touches on religious themes. I think the author, if he is a Christian, he's probably kind of a bit more of a progressive Christian. But I was just really fascinated with it because A, it's an interesting mystery, and B, it commits to the bit of the sensation an event like that would cause and the impact that would have on society. Suicides go up. Churches. I think actually churches start to fill up because people are, terrified of the news this could mean. But for everybody who comes in, there are also people who go out because their faith is undermined by this potential news. So really, A Skeleton in God's Closet, really, I remember it really well. I read it in high school. And so those two things kind of percolated in the back of my mind. And I got a pitch for what I think might be an interesting twist on the aliens come to Earth story. And this is one that I was consciously aware of the religious elements as part of it. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to have an atheist character and a religious Christian character, so you could get kind of a good viewpoint character for both sides of the matter. So the idea is that aliens come, they offer great technology, they offer great wisdom from their planet, and as the press begins to translate them and interview with them, of course people are talking about the implications this will have on history, the implications this will have for philosophy. But one of the very first things the aliens tell us about is not their history or technology. The aliens start evangelizing to us as soon as we translate the languages and establish communication. And what quickly becomes evident is that the aliens have come here because not only are they religious aliens, they have come here to declare one specific religion to be the true religion, and they declare Christianity to be the true religion. And then outrage breaks out all over the internet, all over the campuses. It's nuts. So who are our two characters? Part of the problem of these open source stories is these are ideas I am not too passionate about creating, because I usually like to write by making my characters and loving my characters, and then I build the story around the characters. So these random ideas, it's more like a generic idea for a story and very generic characters. But let's say that our first one is I don't know, female Richard Dawkins. What should we name her? Mrs. A, all right? I don't even have a name for this character. So Mrs. A is like this smoking hot, brilliant, atheist, historical scholar, and So she is struck by the societal implications of this because she is a atheist by conviction. She's devoted her life to making these arguments, and as this highly advanced, highly scientific race, it begins to declare Christianity to be the true religion and offer what they say is recorded evidence they have of our history of Christianity. She faces a conflict because she's she's on record. She's been on the debate track. She said, if I had evidence of any of this, then I would believe in it. I don't have evidence of it, therefore I refuse to believe. And what she notices is that a lot of her secular agnostic colleagues start to sway and start to become interested in singing the praises of Christianity again. And she has a problem with this because it seems like they're abandoning their convictions. Last week you were talking about how lame it is that we have these bitter right-wing red staters clinging to guns and religion. Now these aliens show up and you suddenly abandon all of the rational arguments against religion, all of the arguments about inconsistencies in the Bible. What's wrong with you guys? Don't you care about truth? Don't you care about reason? Don't you care about consistency? And she has a close friend who is a pastor who is also a scholar. And my idea is that they've had, debates on biblical history. They have a history of debating these topics, but they're also on a very friendly relationship. And I want I want the smoking hot atheist doctor to be a woman and the kind of old school pastor to be a guy, so we can maybe have some, romantic tension, will they, won't they, going on. So the pastor has a very different perspective on what's going on. He's very interested at first, of course. This is going to have huge implications for the faith. And he obviously starts noticing after the aliens make their announcements, church attendance is up 800%. They don't have standing room available for how many people are suddenly interested in Christianity based on aliens saying it's true. But while some Christians are just going completely nuts and saying, "Yay, checkmate atheists, we won," this pastor who's a scholar is a little bit more cynical. He's a little bit more skeptical of just trusting these aliens, because all they've essentially said is that they've said Christianity is the true religion, but they haven't said anything else. And these aliens are notoriously non-communicative and kind of mysterious in their language. And he wants clarity. He wants clear answers. He wants them to explain what they mean and he wants the aliens to say what they believe, why they believe it, what their evidence is. So he's not willing to use this information as a prop, because he's just suspicious of it. He has faith. He's studied all his life to he studied history in the Bible because he believes that you shouldn't reject reason. He believes in using his reason to support his faith, but that doesn't mean he's willing to just jump into the arms of these aliens all of a sudden. So, of course, society starts going nuts with this information. And one of the critical questions is, okay, the aliens have said that generically Christianity is true, but which branch of Christianity? So they say they have recordings of us going back millennia. Do they have recordings of Jesus Christ? Do they have recordings of the early church? People want to, so it's not enough at first people are just over the moon. Like Catholics are over the moon, Protestants are over the moon, the Mormons are over the moon, but then suddenly, wait a second. Which branch of Christianity? And everyone starts demanding answers. They want to know which church is the one true church. If the aliens are willing to declare the one true religion, then they should be willing to declare the one true church. And that's when things start to devolve and go nuts. So the problem is I don't have much of a story idea for anything crazy that would happen. All I'm really interested in is what the heck would be the societal implications for a revelation like this. So what I see is potentially happening is the aliens are using this as a ploy to gain power over the world, right? So it's almost fulfilling the atheist sphere of religion being used as a tool to oppress people. And the pastor has faith, and so he's suspicious of aliens telling him what to believe. So ironically, the pastor and the atheist doctor are sort of united in their skepticism and in their serious questioning of the aliens. And really what this should be a metaphor for is not getting caught up on the latest fad or basing what you believe on information you haven't checked out. So the Christians are going nuts and putting all their faith in the aliens. The atheists are going nuts and potentially becoming Christians just because they think that's hashtag the science thing to do. So there are atheists and Christians who have no conviction and are just lapping up whatever the aliens tell them. And our dynamic duo, the atheist and the Christian, they're some of the few people on planet Earth critically challenging and critically examining what these aliens actually have to say. And I would envision that eventually the aliens just get called out as faking all of their supposed recorded information, and it's revealed that they were using this ploy because they have advanced spacefaring technology, but they don't have advanced weapons technology. So they were hoping for using religion as a means of manipulating people and taking over the world that way. And I don't have a conflict resolution for it. Do we kick off the aliens off our planet? My vision would be that maybe the aliens have a cultural attitude that if you don't submit to them willingly, then they won't take you over by force, and so the aliens will leave. And then you see the aftermath of what everyone was putting their faith in being proven wrong. So all of the atheists who were suddenly becoming right-wing Republican Christians because the aliens said it was the cool thing to do, now they're back to being left-wing Democrats. A lot of the right-wing Christians who were believing everything the aliens were telling them about their version of the Christian faith, they're kind of embarrassingly, trying to decide whether they believe in some of them leave the faith because their faith is shaken in Christianity because their faith was shaken in the aliens. So I guess the whole point is that the total effect of it is a metaphor for how much do people believe what they say they believe. Do you believe in the absence of a God or in the reality of God out of conviction, or do you believe in that based on your peer pressure or the culture that you reside in? And there's something comedic to me about imagining essentially the culture wars flip 180 degrees because of some phenomenal circumstance like this, and then it being proven to be a big nothing, and everyone kind of looking back and saying, oh man, remember when I got into aliens? Oh gosh. So that's it. I don't have any idea of how the conflict would be resolved, what the romantic end of the story would be for the Christian and the atheist. It'd probably have to be a bittersweet ending where, the Christian would say, I cannot be unequally yoked and marry a non-believer, and she probably agrees that she can't marry a believer, and you leave it in sort of this hazy area where will they violate that conviction and get married? Will one of them convert so that they can get married? Will they just have to leave each other and remain friends and who have these feelings, but they can't act it out of conviction for what they believe is true? I don't know. That seems like a sweet ending to me to a somewhat ridiculous idea. Anyway, this is open source, yo. If you have any thoughts on this idea, like what would the specifics be? Because I've thought generally about what kind of crazy things would happen. Cable news would go nuts. The internet would go nuts. Podcasts and internet comment sections would go nuts. The memes would be dank. But what would be the government implications? What would be the implications for different denominations of the Christian faith? What would be? I don't know. What would it take? Because the weakest aspect for me is knowing what the science application would be. Because if you have the technology to traverse time and space to get to another galaxy, you probably have the weapons to just take over Earth anyway. So why would they want to manipulate a bunch of people unless the aliens have some sort of strong cultural or religious attitude about it? I've just barely sketched this out. But if anything here clicks some lights on in your imagination, you want to write a little short story, you want to draw a little comic, go for it. I will not sue you. This is a public domain idea, but do show me if this sparks anything for you in your own writing process. Oh, and go check out Pudd'nhead Wilson by Mark Twain and look for an edition that includes Mark Twain's introduction to how he wrote Pudd'nhead Wilson, because he talks about how the story of Pudd'nhead Wilson completely changed as he was writing it. It started out as a farce, and it became a very sort of bittersweet mystery with a lot of pathos to it. And listening to Mark Twain talk about how he uses his imagination and how he changes his stories, that changed my life. And it made me think a lot more critically about some of the garbage I used to write. So after Mark Twain, what I could do is then I could look at an idea like this and say, this part of it's really dumb, but I actually really like this part of it. So maybe I should focus on that part of it more. So Mark Twain rocks. And if you like to write stories or draw pictures or tell comics, you've got to read up. You've got to bone up on Mark Twain, because that guy could spin a yarn. Anyway, #1 Marmaduke fan. Love you guys. Catch you later.